let's talk a little bit about study habits for this course. This can be a difficult course. There's a lot of new ways of looking at the material and looking at psychology and our behavior. So, let's see what we can do to make this work as effectively for all of us, because I want all of you to be successful here. First off, there are a lot of things available on the D2L site to help you be more successful, including a number of study skills videos. So please make sure that you're looking at those and incorporating some of the ideas there. Make sure also that you check out the video on how to navigate the D2L site and find the things that are here. In terms of learning strategies, you'll find more than 6 videos available on D2L, but the basic ideas are these 6 strategies. Engage in elaboration. So make sure that you're explaining and describing your ideas with as many details as possible. Think about, how does this happen? When does this happen? When doesn't it happen? And that'll help you remember it more effectively. As you're attempting to retrieve information, practice in a number of different ways. Write about it, sketch it, draw some concept maps, whatever works for you. Engage in spacing. So rather than only studying the night before the exam, spread out your study across days. So maybe skim the chapter before we talk about it in class, and then read it afterwards, and then maybe skim it or, and look at your notes before the exam, but keep doing so. In the course of this, make sure you're using all sorts of visuals. You'll see that in my course, I include a lot of visuals in order to help you bring this together. And so rather than ignoring those figures and tables, make sure that you're thinking about, what is it that I'm trying to get you to think about here. Use interleaving. So rather than only reading stuff in order, make sure that you're reading the first chapter and then read the second chapter, and then go back and review the first chapter, and then go back and review the second chapter as you're preparing for the third. Mix it up. So as you're doing so, you'll help support your understanding of the idea. And use concrete examples as much as you can. So for example, make sure that you are, rather than skipping over some of the examples that I include, for example, the dog study that we talked about in the first video. Rather than skipping over that, think about that and what are my points there. So use those examples to help identify abstract ideas. And maybe, many times I'm going to point to previous examples, previous ideas that we've been talking about. But do that for yourself too. Maybe I haven't made some connections. Ask for yourself, what is the independent variable? What are the participant variables here? What's the dependent variable? Is there more than one dependent variable? What design? And as you're doing that, you're going to understand the ideas better. At the end of each chapter, you're going to see a video or a slide that looks much like this, that includes a variety of ideas that we talked about in the unit, and asks you to think about them in terms of metacognition. So for each of these, each term, correlation, for example, put a star or a question mark after it, depending on whether you do or you don't know what it is. Then go through and answer all the terms, define all the terms with a star, without your books, without your notes, and see whether you're on track. And then go through, and for the ones that you weren't sure of, look them up. Okay. Many of these terms you'll see are bolded in the videos. Again, just so you're able to recognize what I'm saying is most important. And have a good day. Take care. Bye-bye.